It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
On this Thursday, great to have you with us. Thank you, Chad Erickson, for that introduction. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. We got a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about with David Aardsma from the world of baseball. He's playing injured, just had hip replacement, and 2 days later he's on with us. He's a gamer. Matt Verderame will drop by from SI, their intrepid NFL insider, get some thoughts with him on the owners' meetings and all the fallout from it. And I also got to ask him about what's going on with Trey Hendrickson, this thing that's sort of lingering out there for the Bengals in this offseason as well. But we start things out in the NBA. Sam Yarnell is here. Boy, are the Mavericks glad to see Anthony Davis back, because with no Kyrie Irving, they have just been running on fumes, Sam. And we see him come back, and over the last 3 games, he has been damn near unstoppable. He gets the game winner last night for the Mavs in a game they had to have against the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's averaged like 38 over the last 3 games. I mean, he has been as good as you could possibly be, Sam, at a time where the Mavericks need it most.
For a Mavericks team that doesn't matter, so that they can get a 2-point win over a horrible Hawks team. Again, a Mavericks team.
Wow, you are Debbie Downer. Wow, you are Debbie Downer.
Trying to get into the play-in in a Western Conference that we've only spent the last 2 months talking about how it is incredibly top-heavy and none of these bottom feeders will matter. That's right. I said it. You heard it. The Phoenix Suns might not even make the play-in. That's how bad the Western Conference is this year. So yeah, Anthony Davis can do all this personal stuff and yada, 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 and try to make Mavericks fans feel a little bit less bad that they traded the best player that franchise has seen maybe since Dirk Nowitzki away for Anthony Davis. I just can't get there with the Mavericks.
It's not a matter of getting there. It's about Anthony Davis. It's about Anthony Davis being able to be healthy and go out there and show that he can still play at the highest level and at least give the Mavericks fans something to look forward to when Kyrie comes back next season and what this team could potentially look like. You have to look forward to something.
Being healthy. The guy plays 3 games and all of a sudden we're talking about him being healthy when he was traded, less than 4 months ago and has already missed significant time with his new team. Ain't no being healthy about it. The fact of the matter is this: we know what Anthony Davis is when he's healthy. The problem is he's never healthy, ever, for a sustained period of time. Yeah, he'll go out and drop 43 games in a row, but then he'll miss 12 of the next 15. So, what does it matter?
Matters to Mavericks fans. They're happy they got a win. They're playing
mad
better.
That they gave up Luka. All they are is mad they gave up Luka.
Well, I mean, the fans are. I mean, the organization obviously still feels like it was the best long-term move. And look, to go back to this for a second, if you were the Mavericks and you figured out that your ceiling was what you accomplished last year, as long as Luka is there and doesn't play defense and doesn't get into shape, then it was the right move. If you felt as an organization that your ceiling was reached last year, I will repeat, then it is the right move for the organization, because the object isn't making NBA finals. It isn't making the playoffs. It's winning championships. So I don't have a problem. I still don't have a problem, because long term, we still don't know how this plays out. We still don't know if the Lakers win a championship with Luka. We know last year this team went about as far as maybe the organization thought it could. That's all. I'm not trying to say it wasn't a bad deal, and it might be graded that way in the long run, but right now, this is where we are. Can we go to the Knicks? Do we have to go to the Knicks?
Dallas Mavericks, NBA Championship 2026 contenders. You heard it from Jason Page first.
I didn't say that. Can we talk about the Knicks? Do we have to talk about the Knicks? They're up at halftime last night. Everything's looking good. You're thinking, you know what? Maybe this team's going to turn it on late in the season. And then they go out and just get dismantled in the second half by a Cavaliers team I think now is 61 wins or whatever it is. And the Knicks just can't beat anybody. It is remarkable for a team to go an entire NBA season and not be able to beat an elite team. Like, that is just...
they did it!
Like my head wants to explode kind of stuff. I can't wrap my head around the fact that an NBA team could go an entire season and not beat a good team. I mean, the Spurs probably beat the Celtics or the Cavaliers once this year. The Wizards probably beat the Celtics or the Cavaliers or I just it's mind-blowing to me. It really is.
26 is the number you're looking for. That's the number the Cavaliers outscored the Knicks by in the second half alone of that game yesterday. I can't really comprehend to the ilk of what Jason said, how an NBA team can go an entire quarter in the fourth quarter and only score 20 points, especially when you're up against it and just got outscored by 13 points in the third quarter. Tough scenes for the Knicks. Listen, I'm at a point where I don't know how many times I have to come on this show and say the same thing over and over and over again, but that game last night might as well have been the epitome of it. Thibodeau ball is not sustainable in New York. Sure, it'll win you a bunch of regular season games, but once you get to crunch time, much like that game last night, you'll get outplayed.
Can I say something? And I think it teams perfectly, like a white wine with some good fish. I think it pairs perfectly with what we were just talking about with the Mavericks. If you are the Knicks and you get your doors blown off in a second-round playoff loss, how do you as an organization start to analyze what your long-term prospects are with this group and this head coach? And maybe there does have to be a realization, much like the Mavericks made a decision, rightly or wrongly, that they could not win a championship with Luka Doncic as the centerpiece paired with Kyrie Irving. If you make that decision as the Knicks, maybe you have to start thinking in this offseason about making a change.
Jason, you have been a Knicks fan for long enough to know that is not how upper management with the New York Knicks operates.
Yeah, they'd rather be relevant in a play. Yeah, because they want to be relevant in a playoff team, and they're not going to want to embrace change and maybe lose some more games next year and miss that playoff money. It's absolutely something to it. All right, I need to change gears. Let's go to baseball. David Aardsma will join us next. Welcome back to Sports Wrap on a Thursday. Wednesdays are one of my favorite days of the week because we have Kurt Heelan on to talk basketball with Vlad, and it's a blast. Thursdays are one of my favorite days of the week because we have this guy, Hopalong Cassidy, also known as David Aardsma. Do people know you're recovering from hip surgery, by the way?
I haven't told anybody.
Oh, there you go.
No, only my friends. So here we go. Yeah, I had on Tuesday, I had a hip replacement.
You're too young to have a hip replaced. This does not make sense to me. I've stood next to you. I have dined out with you. You are one of the healthiest looking, strapping young lads I've ever met. And I can't fathom that you had to have a hip replaced.
Yeah. They said too, like I talked to the doctor yesterday and they're like, it was bad. Said it was really bad in there. They're like, they're like, it looked like you were like 70, 80 years old.
Wow. That is mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing.
You just deal with it, right? It's one of those things as like an athlete, you just, as a person, just every day, you just deal with it.
As a bowler and as an athlete myself, I absolutely can relate to everything you're talking about. One day I'll have to have my wrist replaced because, all the pain I feel. Let's talk some baseball here. So we were just talking before we got you on. Sam and I were talking. Hunter Green, Jack Leiter, Paul Skeens. I mean, wow, these guys are dealing early on.
I love it too. Young baseball players like going out there pitching. Obviously, Hunter Green a little bit older than the other two, but and here's the thing: is he probably had the best night of the three. and he gets the hard luck loser in the 1-0 game against Jack Leiter, who 5 and died, but again, a great 5 innings. Those are the games the relievers don't get enough credit for, first of all, because they went in through 4 innings, only gave up 2 hits, and got nothing, 0, anything for it. But those guys are pitching great, and that's what we got to love in this baseball. Especially a guy like Jack Leiter, who had such a hard time last year. So much anticipation when he comes into the league, obviously with the family and Major League Baseball just kind of pumping him a little bit, being the top pitching prospect behind Paul Skeens. And then he just kind of struggled. And so this year, obviously getting his first 2 wins of his career in his first 2 starts of this year is awesome for him. And obviously Skeens just kind of doing his normal Skeensy thing.
Yeah, I'm literally watching the stock on his baseball card that I have just go up by the second with every start that he makes. Go ahead, Sam.
David, something that you and I talked so frequently about last season was the prowess with which the Milwaukee Brewers pitching department could annihilate hitters, right? They could mow through any lineup, and it could be any of their starting 5, any of their rotation. It could be all the way down to Tobias Myers was the name we were talking about left and right last year. Such is not the case this year. Their team ERA is 7.81. What's wrong with the Brewers pitching staff?
Well, to start off the season, they faced their very hot Yankees team. I don't think that helped. It's a good Yankees team with a lot of power, and when you're throwing the lowest velocity of any starters in Major League Baseball and 4 miles an hour, almost slower than the next team, which is the Yankees, that's not a good start. And that's not coming out of the gates. At some point, maybe this is just it. It's just it's going to catch up when you're losing everybody and you're constantly having to replace a starter. Fred Peralta still looked good enough. The rest of that rotation and the rest of that pitching staff just have not held on. At the same time, super early. Really, really early, and everyone's giving Yankees credit and the torpedo bat credit constantly, nonstop talking about it. At the end of the day, almost every one of those pitches were right over the plate and ready to hit.
I don't want to talk about torpedo bats because the last 2 days they got dominated by good starting pitching in Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen. Good pitching's going to beat good hitting. I don't care if you got a little more wood in your. Oh boy, this is going to sound weird. A little more wood in your bat. If you got a little more wood in your bat, lead in your pipe. I don't know.
It's a little thicker in different places.
All right.
Here's at the end of the day, pitching. Just beat the bat. If they move the label, if they move the middle of the bat down, move the pitch, and that's exactly what you saw with the Diamondbacks are doing. I got you, Jace.
So David, this is something I kind of alluded to on the show yesterday or Tuesday, I can't remember, but it did seem like when you went through and watched all the guys who, like, there were lists that were publicized on Twitter, right, of all the guys who were using the torpedo bats, it seemed like they were just getting busted low and away, so they would have to hit the ball on that weak part of the barrel. In Major League Baseball, or in pitching staff specifically, are the adjustments really that day to day? Is it, all right, guys, we came in today at 2 o'clock for our 7 o'clock game and had our meeting at 3, and hey, Bohm's using a torpedo bat, so we're only going to drill him low and away. Is that what happens?
I'll say this. So you always have one big pitching meeting before the series. Each starting pitcher has a meeting with their with the pitching coach and analytics guy and the catchers before the game. So they're kind of going over everything. But if you get something down the pipeline that the guy's using a very specific bat, so just like these torpedo bats. Again, I never dealt with this when I was pitching. Everyone had the same bat. But when you have an adjustment on a swing or something like this, that is immediately down there, and hey, he's got a torpedo bat. If you're pitching in on him, it's going to be tougher because that's a pitch that would normally now be on the label. It's on the barrel. So pitch away, sliders, get something off, get him off of it, get him. It's something that simple, and that's the thing. As long as the catcher knows, and he'll come out for a meeting and say, hey, down and away on him. If you know you have a weak spot, you're going to attack it. Now it always has to match your good pitches. You don't just attack a weak spot just because it's a weak spot. You have to still match it with your good aggressive pitches. If I don't have a sinker down and away to a lefty, I'm not going to just start all of a sudden throwing down and away to a lefty and hope somehow he hits it off the weak spot. I still have to pitch my pitches. It's just now these guys are so good about that stuff. That's how they've been able to take advantage of it. And again, torpedo bats are just it's making bad hitters look good. Let's put it that way.
Anthony Volpe, 4 home runs early on in the season.
And I've got nothing wrong with it.
No, there is nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And pitchers will adjust. And, we go through these cycles, and people act like it's the first time this has ever happened. This has been going on, like manipulating the bats in certain ways. This stuff's been going on. Bats didn't look the way the last couple of years, the way they did when I was growing 100%. Up playing baseball. There's nothing nefarious going on here, David.
No, and I like it. And I like the idea that they're adjusting. They're trying to adjust the pitching. That's the whole goal, and they're finally doing it. We've sat back as fans in baseball for the last 10 years and watched pitching just dominate. Hitting needed to catch up.
Yeah. People might be wondering why we haven't mentioned the Dodgers, who have won 8 straight to start the season. And Shohei Ohtani hit a walk-off home run last night. Don't worry, we're getting to it next. On a Thursday Sports Wrap, we talk Major League Baseball with David Aardsma. Kind of made this his day.
Yes.
Look at him. There he is. Look at that mug. I still can't get over the fact you had hip surgery. Literally hip replacement surgery. You have a new hip. And you're sitting here doing a show with us, which is just amazing. If it were me, I'd be milking it. I'd be milking it. I'd have Andrea bringing me stuff every 5 minutes, sitting in bed. I need help. I mean, if I get a runny nose, I'm telling my husband, you gotta bring me some chicken soup. Let's go. Nursing me to health. You're on here doing a talk show. It's amazing.
It's you guys. I just love you guys.
I appreciate that. No, you love Sam's random question of the week, which if people didn't catch it, we will put it online. I'm going to start putting it online every week. Sam's random question of the week for David Aardsma that he asks before every time we have him on. So the Dodgers are 8-0. Showtime. They walk it off with an Ohtani home run. They've come from behind the last couple of days against a Braves team that just can't catch a break right now. I mean, look, this Dodgers team obviously coming out and still playing like a team that has something to prove.
Absolutely, and they're playing great baseball. And here's the thing. What's crazy is they're 8-0. They're playing amazing. Your greatest offense in baseball, maybe the best team ever in history of baseball, and they haven't scored more than 7 runs yet. It's not, they're not going out there and just obliterating teams. They're coming from behind. They're playing good baseball. They're not making big mistakes. They're making small mistakes, but they're not letting them compound. And at the end of the day, it also might be that they played a Braves team that is just getting beat up, And they played a Tigers team tight. That Tigers, that whole opening series was tough for the Tigers. I felt bad for the Tigers. Now I'm feeling bad for the Braves. And that's the thing. It might be like this all year long, where they're winning. I mean, a 6-3, 5-4 ball games every night because they just have that next guy on the roster is just a little bit better all around. I just don't know why you were even pitching to Ohtani. I get it. No outs and you have to pitch to somebody, but why even throw a pitch even in the strike zone to Ohtani? I don't know. What are we doing?
David, obviously Iglesias giving up that home run last night, it feels like it's a small part of a big story early on in the season, and that has been the struggling of bullpens across baseball. By the way, the Dodgers, everyone wanted to say that maybe the pitching was the one thing where they wouldn't be successful this year. Yeah, their team ERA is 1.97. Have fun with that. But bullpens around baseball, David, they've been lackluster, I guess, to say the best, unless you're the Padres or the Dodgers, really.
Red Sox have been pretty
pitching
good.
Is so good. What is it like to kind of be a part of a bullpen that has a tendency to let a starter down? And does that eat away at guys quickly, or is it something that a bullpen together can kind of turn around in a second?
It's tough, and that's the thing. It will eat at you quickly. It will catch you. The bullpen is a position unlike anything else. Like, you don't get bad days. You don't get many bad days. You get a bad start to a season, and they're already looking to shuffle it. The rotation is different. The starting nine is totally different, where you can struggle for a couple weeks before they even consider making a change. That bullpen, if you start struggling early, they will make changes as fast as you can count, because you're the most movable on any roster. So that's the thing about it. When you go across the league, they will move you quick. They will make changes fast, because every single good team that's ever won the World Series had a great bullpen. Just up and down. And when you look back at teams that lost the World Series, you can go back to that bullpen and say, you weren't that good. And that's the thing. You can get by with a great offense, a great starting pitching staff, but you can't get by with a bad bullpen. So that's one of those things. That's where the pressure will add the quickest, and that's where places have to change. Like we were talking about offline with Felix Bautista. We were texting about the other day. Like, that's something that he has to figure out very fast. You look at Bednar, like, within a week of the season, he's already optioned. So teams will make a change quick if they see they have to, especially in that bullpen, have to make a move.
It's funny, when we did our season preview, we gave about 30 seconds to the AL Central, and now you know why. They're all 2-4, David.
Yes. And that's the one thing about it. We were all excited about the White Sox and how great they started the year. And at the end of the day, they're 2-4. And
they have the best run differential through the first 6 games of anybody in that division.
Yeah. Is that saying a lot?
I'm just saying.
Again, run differential, yes, the best one by +4. That's a run differential, and because everyone else is negative. The Twins are -12. I mean, that's pretty early to be -12. At the end of the day, the Royals are going to be just fine. They're -2. They're going to be playing good baseball. It's just wait till that division starts playing each other. Somebody will break out.
Yeah. By the way, the A's, really rough start after a couple of nice games, and everybody going, oh, here come the A's, what a season it's going to be. I was reading some of their beat writers getting all excited. Now they're 2-5, and they're the A's again.
They're the A's. At the end of the day, though, too, they had a really couple bad games against the Cubs. Cubs are a very good team. The Cubs are going to win the NL Central. They're going to be a good team. They did play the Mariners tough, 2-2 in that opening series. Again, I'm not too worried about the A's. No one's going to walk away going, oh, my God, the A's. But I think they're going to be around a 500 team.
Sam, you got one more? I want to.
Yeah, we all expected the Mets pitching to be horrible, David, but turns out it's not that bad. What have you seen from them that has been so successful early on in the season?
At the end of the day, when it's early, they were a good pitching staff last year. And the pitching coach, Hafner, Hafner. Sorry. You have to believe in them. You have to believe that sometimes there's people that are around in places that do great jobs. And so when you have a staff that last year they did a great job, they did, especially on that coaching side, coaching them up. You have to believe them. Clay Holmes is a good pitcher. At the end of the day, he is a good pitcher. He knows how to pitch. McGill, again, it's still super, super early. But you have pieces there from a coaching standpoint that know what they're doing. And sometimes you have to believe in that. Like, there's a reason why the Rays constantly get the best out of their pitching staffs. There's a reason why pitching coaches are certain guys around the league. Every time they go somewhere, they do a good job. I think there's a good staff there. At the same time, let's let this even out a little bit. Sometimes you come in the season really hot, and then the hitters start realizing what you have and adjust. But again, they're not going to win with that starting pitching staff. They're going to win with that offense, and hopefully that back end of that bullpen step up and just pitch really well like they've been so far.
And the NL West is the class of baseball right now. Dodgers 8-0, Padres 7-0, Giants 5-1, and the Diamondbacks 4-2 after beating the Yankees a couple in a row. Yeah, good time. Baseball. David Aardsma, always appreciate you, my friend. Feel better. Tell Andrea to take good care of you. We'll see you soon.
Sure. Thank you.
The one and only Sports Wrap continues, and some NFL talk on this Thursday. Matt Verderame's a busy guy. He was at the owners' meetings in Florida, and I wanted to get him on to recap what happened, talk about some of the other top stories around the league, and here he is, Matt Verderame, SI's intrepid NFL insider, also the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon. Go and check that out as well. All right, the biggest headline to you coming out of the owners' meetings is?
That I think I think the tush push is going to continue to dominate the headlines, but I think that the real story is going to be when the 18 game schedule happens, because it's going to happen. It's not going to happen this year, obviously, but I think, look, at some point in the next 2 to 3 years, schedule is going to go to 18 games. I just don't see any way around it. I don't think there's anybody in the NFL who really believes it's not going to happen. They have to collectively bargain it, because the CBA currently runs through the 2030 season, and they can't just unilaterally impose that on the players. Obviously, look, they have to then, extend their salaries, because, they're playing extra games. You have to prorate it. But I think even deep down, the players' union's fine with it, because they're going to get paid more. So I think, it's a question of what do the players get out of it. You probably get a second bye week. I'm sure you're going to get a second bye week. Do they get a little bit more out of the revenue pie? But I think in the end, that's something that's going to happen. And I talked to a lot of coaches about it, and they basically said, look, yeah, it's a challenge health-wise, keep everybody healthy. And
could they expand rosters?
I think they probably will. A couple spots, something like that. I think that's maybe one of the compromises, because guys are just, they're going to get more beat up, playing more games. I think joint practices are helping this cause, in the sense that preseason games aren't as important as they used to be. A lot of coaches will tell you they'd rather have a joint practice in a preseason game to evaluate young talent, because they can set up the situations. So I think that's where this thing's going. Again, won't happen this year. It could happen next year. My guess is 2027, but I think that's where we're headed.
Matt, when we talk about the tush push, obviously it's dominating headlines, but I think generally one thing that we know, especially with the history of the NFL, is the owners really get riled up when one does something that the others aren't accustomed to. Yeah. We saw that happen this offseason with the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Obviously paying T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in the same offseason. Did you feel like there was any kind of sense of maybe hostility towards Bengals ownership with those contracts being given out the same way there was towards Browns ownership after the Watson situation?
No, because the Watson situation was just egregious, right? There was the Watson situation was egregious in two ways. One was they gave him a fully guaranteed contract, which just doesn't happen in the NFL. And the owners were really, really pissed, because they thought this might be the thing that kind of forces teams to give more of these. Now, as it turns out, it's not what happened. But that's one part of it. The other part of it, which I think was much more the case publicly than maybe it was with the owners, was, of course, all the off-field stuff with him. And how could you give him this kind of money? Now, with the Bengals, I think they were surprised that they did it. But, look, teams are going to do what they're going to do. I don't think owners get all that annoyed with other guys when they pay them. That's part of the business. I think with the Bengals, the biggest really storyline out of those signings now is are they going to continue down this road? Are they going to start spending real guaranteed money? Because other than with Burrow, they've never really done that. They just don't spend guaranteed dollars. Like Trey Hendrickson, is he going to get his money now? Or was this look, we have to sign these guys because Burrow's going to go out of his mind? And so we're kind of boxed in a little bit here. I don't know. I think that's the intrigue with the Bengals more necessarily than that they actually spent a little money for once. Will they spend it again?
How does this Trey Hendrickson situation work itself out?
My guess is he plays there this year, and then that's it. The problem for Hendrickson is he's 30 years old. And again, this is a team that typically does not spend a lot of money, and they just spent a fortune on Chase and Higgins. Is Mike Brown really going to go out now and give Trey Hendrickson 3 years and $95 million, 70 guaranteed? Hey, to be fair, I didn't think he was going to give Chase the amount of money he gave him. So maybe he's got another trick up his sleeve. I think that they'll dig their heels in and say, look, you're going to play one more year here. You'll be 31 at that point. If they really, really want to, they could tag him. I don't know that they would. And then he leaves. I just have a hard time seeing the Bengals giving him real money into his age 33 season. I don't think they're going to do that after what they've done already this offseason.
Now, when we talk about the rest of the league, Matt, I think that there's an interesting situation developing with the Dallas Cowboys, right? Because
There
obviously
always
this is a
is.
team that has found themselves in the spotlight yet again because of their owner. They made a do-nothing trade earlier today for Joe Milton because it seems like any quarterback that is drafted and not exactly what the organization that drafted them hopes there to be just trades them to the Dallas Cowboys. What was your takeaway from kind of Jerry's viral comments with the Micah thing at the owners' meetings and the general situation in Dallas?
I think it's Jerry being Jerry. I mean, look, he says stuff like this with more frequency than he ever used to. And I think part of that is he's 82 years old. Like, I do think there's a legitimate element of like, I don't care. I'm just going to say this. I'm 82. It doesn't matter. Like, he's from a way different era than most of these owners are. He just is. Like, I mean, even a guy like Clark Hunt feels like he's been around the league literally since he was a child. Clark Hunt is, what, 20 years younger, something like that, than Jerry Jones is? So I'm not surprised he said what he said about Micah Parsons' contract negotiations. Now, I don't think it's helping him, but I don't think he cares. I think he's Jerry. Jerry's just like, that's nice.
We're going to hang on to Matt for one more segment. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. All right. Another segment with Matt Verderame of SI.com. They're fantastic NFL insider. Just got back from the owners' meetings in Florida. Also, the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon. Go and subscribe today to that. You were making a point about Jerry and the Cowboys. I just wanted to let you finish if you had anything you wanted to flush out on that.
Yeah, no, listen, I think, this is who Jerry is. He typically signs the stars, but he takes forever to do it. He costs himself money, like with Dak and with CeeDee Lamb. The Joe Milton thing, I mean, it's typical Jerry. Like, they gave up a 5th-round pick, and they just paid Dak Prescott $240 million. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is the end game here? And by the way, I wouldn't blame a team for trading for Joe Milton. Like, I remember when he came out of Tennessee a year ago, and I know some people, they're kind of in his world, and it was like, look, this kid, like, his arm is unbelievable. If he gets the right coaching, this kid could be really, really good. And you saw that, at times at Tennessee. You saw that in that one game he played in New England, where there were times he made throws in that game. You're like, there's some guys in the league just can't make that throw, period. Does that mean he's going to be a really good pro player? No, but it means there's at least some talent to mine there. But to me, I don't get, like, okay, so now what? But now he just sits there and looks at Dak for the next 2-3 years. Like, it's a weird. They need every pick they can get, and like they did this a year ago when they gave up a pretty decent pick for that receiver out of Carolina who's escaping my brain because is it Mingo? Is that who that was?
Yes, Jonathan Mingo.
Yes.
Yep.
They gave up like a ridiculous pick for Jonathan Mingo, and then like DeAndre Hopkins went for like a swap of a 5th or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I mean, the Cowboys do this stuff. So, Dallas to me is one of the worst run franchises in the league in a lot of ways, and Jerry's a huge reason why.
Can I ask you, is there a consensus that you're able to sort of glean anything here when it comes to what the Giants are going to do? Having, went and got these 2 quarterbacks, is there still a chance they go quarterback at the top of the draft here?
It's not impossible, but I think based on the breadcrumbs, I think it's more likely that they take one of these 2, quote unquote, can't miss guys, right? The Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter class of player. Because Tennessee, I think for all the world, we all think Cam Ward's going 1. I think that's pretty much what everybody thinks. The Browns are fascinating because I think a lot of people don't think they're going to take a quarterback here, and that they could go with a guy like a Travis Hunter. And then for the Giants, if Shador's there, do you take him or do you take the other big time prospect? I would argue, quite frankly, I would take the other can't miss prospect and just move forward for a year because, I get the desperation to get a quarterback, and God knows the 2 guys they have on their roster, they're not it. Okay, but if you draft this kid and you don't think he's that good, but you just draft him because you feel like you're supposed to draft him, then you're screwed for years. I don't think they're winning 8 games with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I just don't. I think Jameis Winston is not good. Like, Jameis Winston's fun and he's a great quote. Like, Jameis Winston's not good. Okay.
Very fun.
He throws a million interceptions. He makes a bunch of mistakes that are avoidable. He's not good. And on the other side of it, like Russell Wilson last year, the Steelers were beating one tomato can after the next, and then they played a hard schedule and literally lost every game. Like, I think the Giants, could you get to 6 wins? Maybe. Yeah, I think. But I just think if you draft Sanders, you got to draft him because you legitimately think he's a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. You can't take him because it's like, well, we don't have quarterbacks. We have to. Like, I'd rather at that point take Abdul Carter and get 15 sacks out of that kid, for 3 or 4 years and be, yeah, you know what? That was the right pick. Like, I just think if you pass on him and he ends up being great, and you have Shedeur Sanders in 3 years from now, you're having a real spirited debate of whether or not to pick up his 5th-year option. Like, what good is it?
Yeah, totally. On the subject of quarterbacks, and obviously this one being an ever-changing one, at the time of this recording, obviously Aaron Rodgers still a free agent. I think the foregone conclusion is that he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But Matt, I heard a rumor that there's a thought that Aaron Rodgers could be holding out to see if the Vikings are really sure that they're going to go with J.J. McCarthy, as they've said. Have you heard anything about this? Do you expect Rodgers to be a Steeler?
I do. I would be really surprised he's not in Pittsburgh. Where else is he going? Like, realistically, and I get it. Minnesota's the argument, but I was up in Minnesota in January. And I get it. Like, every team's going to say, "Oh, we love our guy." I mean, I get all that, but I've done this long enough to know when you got some guy out there who's like, yeah, he's our. You're like, yeah, sure he is. Okay, they genuinely really like. I was up there for training camp. I was up there in January writing a story for SI. They're super high on him, but they really genuinely feel like that kid was going to be big time this year before he got hurt, and I could see why. I was up at camp. He was awesome that day. I just don't think Minnesota's going to bring Rodgers in, because if they bring Rodgers in and he's got nothing left and he stinks, what are you going to do? Bench him? You're going to deal with that all year long? Him going on the McAfee show screaming and yelling that he got benched and it's a conspiracy and all the rest of his nonsense? Like, you're not going to deal with that. Also, is that the guy you really want McCarthy to learn from? How to be a leader in the locker room? You want that guy? When he's taking a sabbatical during like mandatory mini camp because you just couldn't figure out the calendar? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's going there. And so I think he is going to go to Pittsburgh. And look, he makes the Steelers interesting. Do I think they're a Super Bowl team with him? No, I don't. But they're probably a playoff team with him, and maybe even one that can win a game. So, look, I don't buy for 2 seconds he's going to retire or any of this other BS. Like, he's going to play. I think it'll be in Pittsburgh. I'd be very surprised if it's not. I think that's the general expectation within the league too.
That's Matt Verderame. Check him out, SI.com. He does a great job. One of their fantastic NFL insiders. Also, the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon. Go and subscribe to that as well. I always appreciate you, my friend. Be well. We'll talk soon.
No problem. Anytime. Take care.
Welcome back to the show. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Don't forget, on Friday, big show. Robert Littal, Black Sports Online founder, hangs out with us. Talk about the top stories of the week with him. Tino Patino will be here, I think. NASCAR Throwback Week. That'll be fun as well. If you have not checked out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, make sure to go and subscribe today. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can check out this show. So please go and make sure to do that. Also, we are doing some great stuff with our YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Go and check it out on YouTube. We are growing fast, lots of views, new subscribers. Go and check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube page. You can also watch the show on Spotify and YouTube. All right, without any further delay, time for some odds and ends presented by our friends over at Edge Boost. Are you making money extra money daily from your sports betting? I'm always about finding ways to take sports betting to the next level. And that is why I'm pumped to tell you about our friends over at Edge Boost, the financial platform paying you cash back to wager. Edge Boost is an online bank account that pays you for every deposit. And with the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you're getting up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. Free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're doing already. It's a no-brainer. Plus, your Edge Boost debit card starts with a $250,000 daily limit, and it'll never be declined for gambling activity. They've got built-in tools to help you stay responsible, and there's absolutely no hidden fees or minimum required balances. So stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to learn more and sign up today, or just scan the QR code right there and use my promo code WRAP, W-R-A-P, when you go to sign up for your new Edge Boost account. That's WRAP, W-R-A-P, for the promo code, and get a free upgrade to your account with our friends over at Edge Boost. Sam Yarnell, odds and ends. Getting closer to the end of Wayne Gretzky holding the most storied record, I think, that's left in all of sports, and that is the all-time goal-scoring record. Alex Ovechkin, goal number 892 last night, as he continues to creep closer to Wayne Gretzky and that all-time goal-scoring mark as the Capitals beat lost to Carolina last night.
Yeah, it was actually there's some other drama in the hockey world that came out of that game, out of a fight that happened late where one of the Carolina players had pulled a WWE move on one of the Caps players. Just nasty stuff. Hope that guy gets a decently long suspension. Almost broke a guy's leg. Listen, the Ovi thing's great. I don't think any of us expected the scoring to heat up this quickly. I know I didn't. The Penguins thing in the last game of the season is kind of out the window. I know the projection is now that he'll do it in the Blue Jackets game coming up next week. So one of these days you'll see us leading with hockey, and that's how you'll know that Alex Ovechkin is the new all-time goals leader.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I just wanted to check while we're on it here real quick. What are the odds on him now? Minus 480 is yes. Plus 320 is no.
Should have gotten in on the yes when we told you to.
Yeah, it's very true. Odds and ends. Why does Sacramento State want to join FBS? They're making a push. They're going to try and go to FBS. Now, I ask this question in this context. When you look at how smaller schools are struggling, and we're talking about the end of the NCAA men's basketball tournament and all the chalk and what it means for the tournament going forward, and Sam has waxed poetic about that. I ask the same question in football. Why would you want to go and start from the bottom in FBS? And I get that there's financial implications that come with making that sort of move. And obviously being able to make more money for your school and bring more notoriety and all the things that come with that. But I can't understand why Sacramento State would want to throw themselves into that lion's den, knowing the difficulties in succeeding for those smaller programs, Sam.
Let me take you back about 5 months ago. It's December 16th, 2024. Adam Schefter tweets something wildly out of nowhere that no one was really expecting about Michael Vick potentially interviewing for the job at Sacramento State. Doug Gottlieb quotes the tweet and says, "Geez, Shefty, you don't believe everything agents tell you." And then Shefty says, "Geez, Doug, a 7-game losing streak in the horizon, yada, yada, yada." Well, long story short, Doug Gottlieb no longer the coach at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay after this season. Listen, that I say all that because that was the original reporting that Sacramento State has this influx of cash. $50 million, I believe, is their new NIL fundraised total. With this SAC 12 NIL group. And that is how they've got all this money, where they're trying to join FBS and, spend money to make money, right? It's the old adage. You have to spend all this money in NIL and getting moved up. And, they'll even have to sit through a postseason ban. But clearly the people behind this money think that it's worth it, because at the end of the day, if you're spending that kind of money and if you're building your program to a point where Mike Vick is even somewhat interested in it, obviously he ended up choosing Norfolk State to become their head coach, but at the end of the day, the program's got money and they're spending money and they're trying to make more of it.
Can I tell you a true story? I actually once called a game in that stadium at Sacramento State, that dump. Hartford Colonials in the UFL against the Sacramento Monarchs. Josh McCown against, is it Dante Culpepper? Might have been the two starting quarterbacks that day. I can't remember. Oh, thanks to David Aardsma. Thanks to Matt Verderame. Thanks to you, Sam. We'll see you all back here tomorrow.